The photo arrived on a Tuesday morning, slipped under my front door while I was watering the roses Robert planted before he died. I found it when I came back inside, a white envelope with no return address, just my name written in Kimberly's sharp handwriting. Inside was a picture of Emma, my granddaughter. 5 years old, blonde curls, wearing the yellow dress I bought her for her birthday last month.
Before we continue, comment where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching.
She was crying. Her small arm showed a dark bruise near the elbow. Beneath the photo, a note, typed, no signature. Put the house in my name, or I'll tell the judge you abuse her. Your choice. I stood in my kitchen for 11 minutes. I know because I watched the clock above the sink, the same clock Robert installed in 1979 when we first bought this house for $87,000. The second hand moved. I didn't. My hands shook as I read the note again, then a third time. The words didn't change. I thought about Emma's laugh, high and bright, the way she used to run to me when Stephen brought her over for Sunday dinners. That stopped 4 months ago. Kimberly said I was too old to keep up with a child, that Emma needed structure I couldn't provide. I tore the note into 32 pieces. I counted. I flushed them down the toilet, waited for the water to clear, flushed again. I kept the photo. Then I called Donald Fletcher, my husband's oldest friend, the lawyer who helped us write our wills in 2003, who stood beside me at Robert's funeral 18 months ago and handed me his handkerchief when mine was too soaked to use. "Donald," I said when he answered, "I need you to come to the house, now." "Margaret? What's wrong?" "Just come, please." He arrived 47 minutes later. I had made coffee neither of us would drink. It sat on the kitchen table between us, steam rising and disappearing, while I showed him the photo. "She's threatening you." He said it flat, not a question. "Yes." "With false accusations of child abuse?" "Yes." He studied the photo, turned it over, checked for any marking on the back. Nothing. He set it down carefully, aligned it with the edge of the table. "Do you know how the bruise happened?" "No, but I know I didn't cause it. Has Kimberly made threats before?" I thought about the last 3 years. The small comments that grew sharper. The way she looked at this house during visits, calculating, measuring. The questions about my finances that Stephen dismissed as just curiosity or trying to help. "Not like this," I said. "But she's been asking about the house. How much it's worth now, what my plans are." She suggested I should downsize, move into a retirement community, said it would be easier for me. Donald nodded slowly. He pulled a small leather notebook from his jacket pocket, the same one he'd carried for 30 years. I watched him write the date, the time, a brief description. "Margaret, I need you to tell me everything. Every conversation, every request, every time she's pushed boundaries. Start from the beginning." So I did. I told him about 3 years ago, when Kimberly first suggested I should update my will to include her as a co-beneficiary. I told him about the life insurance policy she thought I should take out, $500,000, with Stephen and her as beneficiaries. I told him about the joint bank account she wanted me to open for family emergencies. I told him about the Sunday dinners that stopped, the phone calls that went unreturned, the birthday party for Emma. I wasn't invited to because Kimberly said I had confused the date, even though I had the invitation on my refrigerator, held up with a magnet shaped like a sunflower, Emma's favorite. "When did you last see Emma?" Donald asked. "September 22nd, 11 weeks ago. Stephen brought her by for an hour. Kimberly stayed in the car. And before that? July, for my birthday. They stayed 40 minutes. Donald wrote it all down, his pen moving steady across the page, and I felt something shift inside me. Saying it out loud made it real in a way it hadn't been before. This wasn't just family tension. This wasn't just a difficult daughter-in-law. This was systematic, calculated. This was a plan. "I need to tell you something," Donald said finally. He closed his notebook, set down his pen. "Robert came to see me 2 months before he died. My coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. He made me promise not to tell you unless something like this happened. He said if Kimberly ever came after the house, or money, or made threats, I was to give you something." "Give me what?" Donald reached into his jacket again, pulled out a sealed envelope. Yellow, legal size, my name written across the front in Robert's handwriting. My dead husband's handwriting. He said to tell you he was sorry, that he should have said something sooner, that he tried to protect you but he knew she wouldn't stop. I took the envelope. It was heavier than I expected. The seal was intact, dark blue wax with Robert's thumbprint pressed into it. What's inside? I don't know. He sealed it in front of me, made me witness it. but he never told me the contents. He just said you'd need it, and that you'd know what to do. I set the envelope on the table next to the photo of Emma, 2 pieces of paper, one from my son's wife, threatening to destroy me, one from my dead husband, trying to save me. Margaret, Donald said quietly, before you open that, I need to ask you something. If this goes where I think it's going, are you prepared to fight? Because once we start, there's no backing down. This will get ugly. Stephen will be caught in the middle. You might lose your relationship with him. I looked at the photo again, Emma's tear-streaked face, the bruise on her arm, the dress I bought her, now evidence in someone else's lie. I already lost my relationship with him, I said. Kimberly took it, piece by piece, Sunday by Sunday, phone call by phone call. Now she wants my house. The house Robert and I bought when Stephen was born. The house where I painted his nursery blue because we couldn't afford to hire anyone. The house where Robert taught him to ride a bike in the driveway. Where we buried our dog in the backyard under the cherry trees. Where I slept next to my husband for 43 years. My voice didn't break. I wouldn't let it. She can't have it. Donald nodded once. Then we fight. He stood, gathered his notebook, left his coffee untouched. At the door he turned back. Open the letter tonight. Read it carefully. Then call me. Whatever Robert left you, it's important. He was protecting you from something specific. After he left, I sat alone in my kitchen. The afternoon light came through the window above the sink, the same light that had come through that window for 45 years. I thought about the day we moved in, how Robert had carried me across the threshold even though I told him it was silly, how we'd laughed and kissed and promised this house would always be home. I thought about Stephen as a baby, his first steps taken right here on this kitchen floor. Stephen at 6, learning to tie his shoes at this table. Stephen at 16, sullen and difficult, but still mine. Stephen at 32, bringing Kimberly home for the first time and introducing her as the one. I should have seen it then. The way she looked at him. Not with love. With possession. At 6:43 p.m., I opened Robert's letter. The first page was a note in his handwriting, dated January 14th, 2022. 2 months before he died. Margaret, my love. If you're reading this, Kimberly has made her move. I'm sorry I never told you what I discovered. I thought I could handle it without hurting you. I was wrong. Behind this letter are documents I collected over 18 months. Bank statements, credit reports, court records from Nevada. Kimberly isn't who she says she is. She's done this before. In 2004, she married Gerald Dawson in Reno. He was 71. She was 22. He died 8 months later. Heart attack. She inherited everything. In 2006, she was engaged to Frank Chen in Las Vegas. His daughter hired a private investigator. Found evidence of theft. Frank died a year later. Kimberly got nothing. I found this in March 2021. I hired an investigator. I've been documenting everything. Don't let her win, Margaret. Fight. I've given you everything you need. All my love. Always. Robert. I sat in the dark kitchen, Robert's letter in one hand, the photo of Emma in the other, and I understood 2 things with perfect clarity. First, my daughter-in-law was a predator who had chosen my family as her next target. Second, my husband had known, and he had died before he could stop her. Now it was my turn. I spent Wednesday morning reading Robert's documents, all 43 pages, bank statements showing Kimberly's gambling losses, $53,000 over 2 years, credit reports listing debts under 3 different names, court records from Reno showing the Dawson family's failed attempt to challenge Gerald's will, a private investigator's report with photographs of Kimberly entering a casino in Blackhawk 7 times in 1 month, always on Thursdays, always between 2 and 6 p.m., always when Stephen was at work. Robert had highlighted certain passages in yellow, dates when large sums disappeared from accounts. Testimony from Frank Chen's daughter describing how Kimberly had forged checks. A medical examiner's note about Gerald Dawson's death. Sudden cardiac arrest, no suspicious circumstances. Wife was cooperative during investigation. Cooperative. That word made my stomach turn. At 11:30 a.m., my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw Stephen standing on my porch, holding Emma's hand. Behind them, Kimberly leaned against their car, arms crossed, sunglasses hiding her eyes even though the day was overcast. I opened the door. "Mom," Stephen said. He tried to smile. It didn't reach his eyes. "Can we come in?" Emma looked up at me. Her blonde curls were pulled back tight in a ponytail that looked too severe for a 5-year-old. She wore a pink jacket I'd never seen before, zipped to her chin despite the mild weather. She didn't smile. She didn't run to hug me like she used to. "Of course," I said. Stephen came inside. Emma followed, her small hand gripping her father's. Kimberly stayed by the car for another minute, then walked up slowly, her heels clicking on the concrete path Robert had laid himself in 1983. In my living room, they arranged themselves like pieces on a board. Stephen sat on the couch, Emma pressed against his side. Kimberly remained standing, positioned near the window, backlit, her face in shadow. "Mom," Stephen said again, "we need to talk about your living situation. Not hello, not how are you, not I missed you, just business." "My living situation is fine," I said. "It's not fine," Kimberly said. Her voice was flat, rehearsed. "This house is too big for one person. The stairs are dangerous. You're 67 years old. What happens when you fall and no one finds you for days?" "I haven't fallen. Yet," she said. "But you will. Everyone does eventually." Stephen cleared his throat. "Mom, we've been talking, and we think it would be best if you moved somewhere with support. A nice community with other people your age, activities, medical staff on site." "You mean a nursing home, not a nursing home," he said quickly. "A retirement community. There's a really good one in Arvada. We looked at it last weekend. They have studio apartments, meal plans, everything you'd need. And what would happen to this house?" Kimberly moved slightly, her silhouette shifting. "We would take care of it. Make sure it's properly maintained until we can sell it and put the money toward your care." There it was. The real plan, delivered smooth as butter. Or, Kimberly continued, we could avoid all that hassle and just transfer the deed now. Put it in our name. That way, when something happens to you, there's no probate, no legal fees, no complications. It's cleaner, easier for everyone. I looked at my son. His jaw was tight, his eyes fixed on the coffee table, the same table where he'd done his homework for 12 years, where I'd helped him build a model of the solar system for his 4th grade science project, where Robert had taught him to play chess. "Stephen," I said, "do you think I need to give up my house?" He didn't look at me. "I think Kim has some good points about safety." "Kim has good points," I repeated. "What do you think? Not your wife. You." His face flushed. "Mom, don't make this difficult. I'm not making anything difficult. I'm asking my son if he thinks his mother should give away the house his father and I bought, the house where he grew up, to his wife." "It's not giving it away," Kimberly said. "It's planning ahead, being responsible. But if you're going to be stubborn about this, maybe we need to consider other options." "What other options?" She pulled out her phone, tapped the screen twice, and showed me a photograph. Emma, sitting on a bed I didn't recognize. Her arm extended, the bruise clearly visible. Dark purple, the size of a quarter, right above her elbow. "Child Protective Services takes abuse very seriously," Kimberly said, "especially abuse by elderly caregivers who might not realize their own strength, or who might be experiencing cognitive decline." The room went cold. "I never touched her," I said. "That's not what Emma said." Kimberly's voice was soft, almost kind. "She told us her Grammy squeezed too hard, that it hurt, that she cried." "Children don't lie about things like that, Margaret." I looked at Emma. She was staring at her shoes, pink sneakers with lights that blinked when she walked. Her shoulders were hunched, her whole body curled in on itself. "Emma," I said gently. "Sweetie, did I hurt you?" She didn't answer, didn't look up. "Emma," I said again. "Don't interrogate her," Kimberly snapped. "She's already traumatized." Stephen put his arm around Emma, pulled her closer. "Mom, maybe you don't remember. It happens with older people. Memory issues. Confusion." "I don't have memory issues," I said. "I haven't seen Emma in 11 weeks. I couldn't have caused a bruise that's clearly fresh." 11 weeks? Kimberly laughed, sharp and bright. "Margaret, we were here 2 weeks ago. You made cookies. You insisted on helping Emma reach something on a high shelf. You grabbed her arm too hard. Stephen saw it happen. Didn't you, honey?" My son looked at the floor. "Stephen," I said, "tell the truth." He swallowed hard. "I remember you grabbing her arm. I remember Emma crying." The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. My own son, lying to my face, in my house, about my granddaughter. "You're going to sit there and lie for her," I said. "I'm not lying. You are. You're lying because she's told you to. You're lying because you're afraid of her. Or you owe her something. Or you're just too weak to stand up to her." His face went red. "Don't talk to me like that. Then don't lie to your mother." Kimberly stepped forward, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. "Here's what's going to happen, Margaret. You're going to sign a quitclaim deed transferring this house to Stephen and me. You're going to do it by Friday. If you don't, I'm filing a report with CPS. I have photos, I have Stephen's testimony, and I have Emma's statement. You'll never see her again. And when they investigate, they'll find an old woman living alone in a house she can't maintain, exhibiting signs of paranoia and confusion. I'm not confused. Aren't you? She tilted her head, her voice dripping false concern. You just accused your own son of lying. You can't remember visits that happened 2 weeks ago. You're isolated, no friends, no social connections. That's textbook cognitive decline, Margaret. I stood up slowly. My knees creaked. My back ached. I was 67 years old, and I suddenly felt every single year. Get out of my house. Mom, Stephen said, standing too. Just think about it, sleep on it. We can come back Friday with the paperwork. Get out. We're trying to help you, Kimberly said. But if you won't accept help, we'll do what we have to do to protect Emma. She walked to the door, Stephen following with Emma's hand in his. At the threshold, Kimberly turned back. Oh, I almost forgot. We brought Emma's birthday cake. The one you were supposed to make for her party last weekend. The party you forgot about. She went to the car, returned with a white bakery box, and set it on my kitchen counter. I'll leave it here, since you missed the celebration. After they left, I opened the box. Inside was a small cake, chocolate with pink frosting. Happy birthday, Emma, written in purple letters. 5 candles, unlit, stuck in the top. Emma's birthday was September 8th. 4 months ago, I had sent a card with a $50 check. Stephen had texted, "Thanks, Mom." This cake was fresh. The frosting was still soft. The receipt taped to the bottom of the box showed today's date, purchased this morning at King Soopers at 9:47 a.m. Kimberly had bought it on the way here, as a prop, as evidence of my supposed failure to remember my granddaughter's birthday. I stood in my kitchen, looking at that cake, and something inside me hardened into steel. I called Donald Fletcher. "She came here," I said when he answered. "With Stephen and Emma. She's escalating. She wants the deed signed by Friday or she's filing a CPS report. Did you record the conversation?" "No. Next time, record it. Colorado is a one-party consent state. You don't need their permission. Also, don't meet with them alone. I'm coming over tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. We're going to prepare a response. And Margaret? Yes? Don't sign anything. No matter what they threaten. Don't sign a single piece of paper." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the bed I'd shared with Robert for 43 years, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Stephen's face when he lied for Kimberly, thinking about Emma's small hunched shoulders, thinking about the cake sitting on my counter, evidence of a birthday party that never happened. At 2:17 a.m. I got up and went to the kitchen. I opened the cake box, took out one of the candles and snapped it in half. Then I took a photograph. The broken candle, the fresh cake, the receipt showing today's date. Evidence could work both ways. Thursday morning, Donald arrived at 9 a.m. sharp. He carried a leather briefcase I'd seen 100 times before, the same one he'd brought to Robert's funeral, to our will signings, to every legal matter we'd ever needed help with in 40 years. He set a small recording device on my kitchen table. "Voice activated," he said. "Keep it in your pocket when they're here. It'll pick up everything within 15 feet. Also, I want you to install security cameras. Front door, back door, anywhere they might approach." That feels extreme. "Margaret, she's already manufacturing evidence against you. The birthday cake, the false accusation about the bruise, she's building a narrative. We need to build a counter-narrative with real evidence, not props." He pulled papers from his briefcase, bank statements, my bank statements. "I pulled these yesterday with the authorization you gave me in 2020, he said. "Look at these transactions." He pointed to 3 withdrawals. April 19th, $3,200. July 7th, $2,800. September 23rd, $3,200. "I didn't make those," I said. "I know, but someone did. Someone who had access to your account information. Someone who knows how to forge signatures well enough to fool a bank teller." My stomach dropped. "How much total?" $9,200, maybe more if we go back further. "I've requested records from the past 2 years. I sat down hard. The same chair where I'd sat yesterday when Kimberly threatened me. The same chair where I'd fed Stephen breakfast before school for 13 years. Everything in this house was the same, but nothing was the same. She's been stealing from me. Yes. For how long? We'll know more in a few days. But Margaret, this is good news. This is evidence of financial fraud. This changes everything. How? Because now we can prove she has a financial motive. It's not about your safety or Emma's well-being. It's about money. It's always been about money. He showed me more papers. A credit card application in my name that I'd never signed. A loan inquiry from a bank in Denver. Denied because of my age, but attempted. A request to be added as a joint owner on my checking account. Submitted last November. Rejected because I'd never confirmed it in person. She's been trying to access your assets for at least a year, Donald said. Every legal avenue she could think of. When those didn't work, she moved to intimidation. The doorbell rang. Donald and I both froze. Through the front window, I could see a white sedan in my driveway. A woman in business clothes stood on my porch holding a clipboard. "Don't answer," Donald said quietly. The doorbell rang again. Then a knock, firm and official. "Mrs. Hayes? I'm Jennifer Walsh from Child Protective Services. I need to speak with you about a report we received." Donald swore under his breath. "She filed already. She said Friday. She filed Wednesday. What do I do? Answer the door. Be polite. Don't volunteer information. I'll be right here." I opened the door. Jennifer Walsh was maybe 40, dark hair pulled back, tired eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She held up an ID badge. "Mrs. Hayes, I'm here to follow up on a report of potential neglect and abuse involving your granddaughter, Emma Hayes, age 5. May I come in?" "Of course." She entered, saw Donald, and her expression shifted slightly. "And you are?" "Donald Fletcher, Mrs. Hayes' attorney." "I see." She made a note on her clipboard. "Mrs. Hayes, I need to ask you some questions about your relationship with Emma. When did you last see her?" "September 22nd, 11 weeks ago. And before that?" "July 16th, my birthday." Jennifer wrote this down. "The report we received states you saw Emma 2 weeks ago, on October 18th, and that during that visit you grabbed her arm forcefully, causing bruising and distress. That's not true. I haven't seen Emma in 11 weeks. Do you have anyone who can verify that?" I thought about my life. My quiet, solitary life since Robert died. The grocery store clerk who saw me every Wednesday. The mail carrier who waved as he drove past. No one who could provide a detailed account of my whereabouts on October 18th. "No," I said. Jennifer made another note. "Mrs. Hayes, I need to assess your living conditions. May I see the rest of the house?" For the next 30 minutes, she walked through my home. She checked the bathroom for expired medications. She looked in the refrigerator, noted the fresh milk and vegetables. She examined the stairs, ran her hand along the railing Robert had installed, tested its stability. She looked in the bedroom I'd prepared for Emma, the one with unicorn wallpaper and a small bed with pink sheets, unused for 11 weeks. "You have a room set up for Emma," Jennifer said. "Yes, for when she visits. When she used to visit." "Why did the visits stop?" I wanted to say because my daughter-in-law is systematically isolating me to steal my house, but I couldn't prove it. "Not yet. You'd have to ask my son and his wife." Jennifer nodded slowly. "Mrs. Hayes, I'm going to be honest with you. This home is clean, well-maintained, and safe. I see no evidence of hoarding, neglect, or unsafe conditions. However, the allegations in the report are serious. I'll need to interview Emma, your son, and your daughter-in-law separately. I'll also need to request your medical records to assess cognitive function." "I don't have cognitive problems. That's what the records will show then." She handed me a card. "I'll be in touch within a week. In the meantime, please don't attempt to contact Emma or visit her without supervision." After she left, Donald and I sat in silence for a long moment. "They're going to interview Emma," I said. "A 5-year-old who's been coached by Kimberly. She'll say whatever Kimberly tells her to say. Maybe, but CPS investigators are trained to spot coach testimony, and Jennifer Walsh seemed reasonable. She saw your house. She saw you. That helps." "It doesn't feel like it helps." Donald packed his briefcase. "Keep recording everything. Install those cameras. Document every attempt they make to contact you. And Margaret, start thinking about who else might have information. Old neighbors who knew your family, Stephen's friends from school, anyone who can testify about your relationship with him, with Emma, about the kind of person you are." After he left, I stood in Emma's room. The unicorn wallpaper I'd hung myself last Christmas. The bookshelf full of picture books I'd collected at garage sales. The toy chest with puzzles and dolls and stuffed animals. Everything waiting for a little girl who might never come back. I thought about calling Stephen, begging him to tell the truth. But I knew it wouldn't work. Kimberly had him completely. Instead, I went to the garage. In a box marked Stephen's school years, I found what I was looking for. Report cards, teacher notes, awards, a certificate from his 5th grade science fair. where he'd won first place for the solar system model we'd built together. At the bottom of the box, a Father's Day card he'd made when he was 7, construction paper folded in half, his handwriting in crayon. Dear Dad, you are the best. Mom, too. I love you forever. Stephen. I sat on the garage floor, holding that card, and cried for the first time since Robert died. That afternoon, my neighbor Alice knocked on my door. She lived 2 houses down, a widow like me, 72 years old, someone I'd known casually for 20 years. Margaret, she said, I hope you don't mind me asking, but is everything all right? I saw a woman from social services here this morning. Word traveled fast on Evergreen Street. Family issues, I said carefully. I heard from Donna, who heard from her daughter, that your daughter-in-law is concerned about you. About your memory. Donna was Kimberly's cousin. I'd met her once, 3 years ago at Stephen's birthday dinner. My memory is fine. Alice hesitated. Margaret, I don't want to pry, but Donna said Kimberly is worried you're getting confused, that you've been forgetting things. Important things. Like what? Like Emma's birthday. Like visits. She said you accused Stephen of lying about things that really happened. I felt the walls closing in. Kimberly wasn't just threatening me in private. She was poisoning the neighborhood against me, building her narrative publicly. Alice, none of that is true. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding, Alice said, but her eyes held doubt. But maybe you should think about getting some help. My sister-in-law moved to a lovely place in Aurora. Assisted living. Very nice. She's much happier now that she doesn't have to worry about maintaining a house. After Alice left, I sat at my kitchen table and made a list of everyone on Evergreen Street. 12 houses. I'd lived here 45 years. I'd brought casseroles when babies were born. I'd attended funerals. I'd borrowed sugar and lent tools and waved hello every morning. How many of them had Kimberly talked to? How many believed I was a confused old woman losing my grip on reality? At 6 p.m., I noticed something odd. My mailbox was open. I'd closed it this morning after retrieving yesterday's mail, I was certain. Inside, I found a bill from my credit card company. Statement enclosed. Except I'd already received this month's statement last week. I opened it. 3 charges I hadn't made. Amazon, $387. Target, $156. A restaurant in Boulder called The Kitchen, $213. Total, $756. I called the credit card company. The automated system told me my account was locked due to suspicious activity. To unlock it, I'd need to verify my identity and confirm recent transactions. I went through the security questions. Mother's maiden name, first car, street I grew up on. Thank you, Mrs. Hayes, the representative said. Your account shows a request was made yesterday to add an authorized user, a Mrs. Kimberly Hayes at the same address. Is this correct? No, I never authorized that. I see. And the charges made yesterday at Amazon, Target, and the Kitchen restaurant in Boulder. Do you recognize those? No. I'm going to flag your account for fraud and issue a new card. It will arrive in 7 to 10 business days. In the meantime, your current card is deactivated. After I hung up, I checked my wallet. My credit card was still there, which meant Kimberly had somehow obtained my number, expiration date, and security code, which meant she'd been in my house, going through my things while I was out or asleep. I called Donald again. She's been inside the house, I said. She has my credit card information. She tried to add herself as an authorized user. Does she have a key? I thought about the spare key I'd given Stephen years ago for emergencies, the key that hung on a hook in his kitchen, easily accessible. Yes, I said. She has a key. Change your locks tonight. I'll send someone over. And Margaret? This is good. Every crime she commits is more evidence. She's getting desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. But I didn't feel like she was making mistakes. I felt like she was winning. She had Stephen. She had Emma. She'd turned my neighbors against me. She'd stolen my money. She'd been inside my house, touching my things, invading the only space I had left. At 11 p.m., a locksmith arrived and changed every lock. Front door, back door, garage door. He gave me 3 keys. I put one in my purse, one in my bedroom, and one in the kitchen drawer where I kept important papers. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, listening to every sound. The house settling, the wind, a car passing on the street. Every noise became a threat. Every shadow became Kimberly, coming to take what was mine. At 3:17 a.m., I got up and went to Emma's room. I sat in the rocking chair where I used to read her stories. The chair creaked softly, the same sound it had made when I rocked Stephen to sleep 38 years ago. I thought about that little boy, the one who'd written, "I love you forever," in crayon. And I wondered when exactly I'd lost him. Friday morning, I opened Robert's envelope completely, not just the letter, but everything behind it. 43 pages of documentation that my husband had compiled in the last 18 months of his life. Page 12 showed a photograph of Kimberly entering a casino in Black Hawk. Date stamp, March 3rd, 2021. She wore sunglasses and a red coat I'd seen her wear to Christmas dinner that year. Page 18 was a bank statement from an account in Reno, Nevada, under the name Kimberly Dawson. Balance after Gerald Dawson's death, $340,000. Balance 6 months later, $89,000, most of it withdrawn in cash at casinos. Page 27 was a police report from Las Vegas, filed by Frank Chen's daughter in 2006. Suspect withdrew $12,000 from father's account using forged checks. Father declined to press charges due to emotional attachment to suspect. At the bottom of Robert's stack, I found a business card. Jack Morrison, private investigator, with a Denver phone number and an address in Capitol Hill. I called the number. A man answered on the second ring. Morrison Investigations. Mr. Morrison, my name is Margaret Hayes. My husband Robert hired you in 2021. Silence for 3 seconds. Then, Mrs. Hayes, I've been waiting for you to call. You have? Robert told me if something happened to him, I should wait for you to reach out. He said you'd need help eventually. He said Kimberly wouldn't stop until she had everything. My throat tightened. He knew. He knew. He was a smart man, Mrs. Hayes. Careful. He wanted to protect you, but he also wanted to give you the choice of what to do with the information. He made me promise not to contact you unless you called first. Can you help me? I can continue what I started. But I need to warn you, the situation has probably gotten worse since Robert died. People like Kimberly escalate over time. They get bolder. She's threatening to take my house. She's accused me of abusing my granddaughter. She's stolen $9,000 from my bank account. She's turned my neighbors against me. Then we don't have much time. Can you come to my office today? At 2 p.m., I sat across from Jack Morrison in a small office above a coffee shop on Colfax Avenue. He was 54, gray hair, sharp eyes, wearing a flannel shirt and jeans. The walls were covered with filing cabinets and corkboards full of photographs and notes. He pulled out a thick folder labeled, Hayes Kimberly. This is what I compiled for Robert, he said. I've updated it occasionally since he died, just keeping tabs. Professional curiosity. He spread photographs across the desk. Kimberly at the casino. Kimberly at a bar in downtown Denver. Kimberly with a man I didn't recognize, his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder. Who's that? Ryan Cole, 29 years old, bartender at the Junction in Lodo. Kimberly's been seeing him for 8 months, always on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons when your son is at work. I stared at the photograph. Kimberly's face was relaxed, happy, nothing like the cold calculation she showed me. This was real. This was who she was when she didn't have to perform. Does Steven know? I doubt it. She's careful. Different bars, different times, always pays cash. But she got sloppy a few weeks ago. He showed me another photo, this one taken through a car window. Kimberly and Ryan kissing in a parking lot. I need copies of everything, I said. Already made them. But Mrs. Hayes, I need to tell you something else. I've been monitoring Kimberly's gambling activity. She uses multiple online accounts under different names. In the past 3 months, she's lost $63,000. My stomach dropped. $63,000? Online poker, sports betting, virtual slot machines. She's addicted, and she's desperate. That's why she's accelerating the timeline with you. She needs a big influx of cash, and she needs it fast. Why doesn't she just get a job? Jack laughed, but there was no humor in it. People like Kimberly don't work. They extract. They find targets and they bleed them dry. Your house is worth what, $680,000? Yes, that pays off her gambling debts, buys her another year or two of her lifestyle. And when that runs out, she'll find another target. Maybe she'll convince Steven to take out life insurance. Maybe she'll develop a sudden interest in your health. But she won't stop until she gets what she came for. I thought about Robert's note. She's done this before. Twice that we know of. Maybe more. Gerald Dawson in Reno, dead at 72. 8 months after marrying her. She inherited everything, spent it all in 18 months. Frank Chen in Vegas, she almost hooked him, but his daughter caught on. These aren't coincidences, Mrs. Hayes. This is a pattern. He pulled out another document. I also found something interesting. Kimberly's been in contact with an estate lawyer in Boulder, guy named Marcus Webb, specializes in elder law, Probate, competency hearings. Competency hearings? When someone wants to have an elderly person declared incompetent to manage their own affairs. Usually it's legitimate. Someone with dementia or Alzheimer's. But sometimes it's abused. Someone wants control of an estate, so they manufacture evidence of incompetence. Everything clicked into place. The manufactured birthday cake. The false accusations about Emma. The story about memory problems spread through my neighborhood. Kimberly wasn't just trying to intimidate me into signing over the house. She was building a legal case to have me declared incompetent. If she gets a judge to believe I'm not mentally fit, I said slowly, she doesn't need me to sign anything. Exactly. Stephen becomes your guardian, which means Kimberly controls him, which means she controls your assets, your house, your bank accounts, your pension, everything. How do we stop her? Jack leaned back in his chair. We do what she's doing. We build a case, but ours will be based on facts, not lies. I'll document everything. The gambling, the affair, the fraud, the theft. We'll show she has motive, means, and opportunity. We'll show a pattern of predatory behavior, and we'll do it before she gets in front of a judge. How long will that take? 2 weeks, maybe 3. I need to tail her, get more evidence of the affair, document the gambling in real time. I also want to contact Gerald Dawson's family and Frank Chen's daughter, get their stories on record. I don't have 3 weeks. She wants the deed signed by today. When I don't sign, she'll escalate. Let her escalate. Every move she makes is more evidence. But you need to protect yourself. Keep that recorder on you at all times. Don't meet with her alone. And Mrs. Hayes? Consider installing cameras inside your house, not just outside. Inside? She has a key. Or she had one. You change the locks, but she's resourceful. If she gets in again, we need proof. I left Jack's office with copies of everything. Photographs of Kimberly and Ryan, bank records showing the gambling losses, timeline of her past relationships, contact information for Gerald Dawson's son and Frank Chen's daughter. At 5:30 p.m., my phone rang. Stephen. Mom, he said. His voice was tight. Kim says you were supposed to sign papers today. I'm not signing anything. Mom, please, just make this easy. Easy for who? For everyone. For you, for us, for Emma. If you just cooperate, everything can go back to normal. Normal, I repeated. Stephen, do you even hear yourself? Your wife is threatening your mother. She's stealing from me. She's lying about me to social services and to our neighbors. And you're asking me to cooperate. She's not lying. She's concerned. We're all concerned. Are you concerned about the $63,000 she's lost gambling in the last 3 months? Or the bartender she's sleeping with on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons? Or the pattern of targeting elderly men, marrying them, and waiting for them to die? Silence. I don't know what you're talking about, he said finally. Yes, you do. Or part of you does. Part of you knows exactly what kind of person you married. But you're too scared or too proud or too trapped to admit it. Mom, you're not well. This paranoia, these accusations, I have photographs, Stephen. I have bank records. I have witness statements. I have everything. More silence. I don't believe you, he said, but his voice shook. Then come see for yourself. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Just you, not Kimberly. Come to my house and I'll show you everything your father discovered before he died. Everything he tried to protect me from. Dad didn't discover anything. He died of a heart attack. He died 2 months after he found out what Kimberly really is. 2 months after he hired a private investigator. 2 months after he started documenting everything. Doesn't that timing seem convenient to you? Are you suggesting— He stopped, started again. That's insane. Is it? Gerald Dawson died 8 months after marrying her. Heart attack. Robert died 18 months after starting to investigate her. Heart attack. Maybe I'm paranoid. Or maybe I'm the only one paying attention. I'm not coming over to listen to conspiracy theories. Then don't come. But Stephen, when this all falls apart, when the truth comes out and you realize what you've been protecting, remember that I gave you a chance. I gave you an opportunity to do the right thing. You chose not to take it. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from adrenaline. From the cold clarity of knowing exactly what I needed to do. At 8 p.m., Jack Morrison called. Mrs. Hayes, I followed Kimberly this afternoon. She went to a bank in Wheat Ridge, came out 40 minutes later looking angry. I think she tried to access your accounts again and got blocked. Good. Also, I contacted Gerald Dawson's son in Reno. He's willing to talk. Says his family tried to fight the will, but Kimberly had covered her tracks too well. They always suspected she caused his father's heart attack, but they couldn't prove anything. Gerald had been healthy, no heart problems, then suddenly he's dead and Kimberly's cleaning out his accounts. Can he testify? If it comes to that, yes. But, Mrs. Hayes, there's something else. I found out why Kimberly's so desperate right now. She doesn't just owe $63,000 in gambling debts. She owes it to some very serious people. Online gambling rings with connections to organized crime. She's got 2 weeks to pay, or they start taking collateral. What kind of collateral? The violent kind. That's why she needs your house now. She's not just greedy, she's terrified. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen and thought about everything I'd learned. Kimberly wasn't just a gold digger or a manipulator. She was desperate, cornered, dangerous. And desperate people did desperate things. I checked the deadbolts, checked the windows, set a chair against the back door for extra security. Then I went to Emma's room and sat in the rocking chair. I thought about my granddaughter, 5 years old, trapped in the middle of this. Used as a weapon by her mother, kept from her grandmother. Growing up in a house full of lies. I made a decision then. Whatever happened next, Emma wouldn't be another casualty of Kimberly's greed. At 11:47 p.m., I heard something outside. Footsteps on the porch. Slow, deliberate, careful. I grabbed my phone, opened the security camera app Jack had helped me install. The screen showed my front porch. Kimberly stood there, trying the doorknob. When it didn't open, she pulled something from her pocket. A key. The old key that no longer worked. She tried it 3 times. Then she looked directly at the camera, smiled and walked away. I saved the footage. Evidence. Saturday morning, I sent Stephen a text message at 7 a.m. Come to the house at 2 p.m. today, alone. If you bring Kimberly, I won't open the door. This is your last chance to see the truth. He didn't respond for 3 hours. Then, at 10:13, fine. I spent the morning preparing. I printed every document Jack Morrison had given me. Photographs of Kimberly and Ryan, bank statements showing gambling losses, timeline of Gerald Dawson and Frank Chen, credit card fraud records, video footage of Kimberly trying to enter my house with the old key. I arranged everything in folders on my dining room table, the same table where we'd celebrated 30 Christmases, where Stephen had blown out birthday candles for 18 years, where Robert and I had shared dinner every night for 4 decades. Now it would be a courtroom. Donald Fletcher arrived at 1:30 p.m. He carried his leather briefcase and a small recording device. Are you sure you want to do this? He asked. No, but I don't have a choice. You always have a choice, Margaret. You could wait. Let the legal process unfold. File charges for fraud and theft. Let the system handle it. And lose Emma in the meantime? Lose what's left of my relationship with Stephen? No. He needs to see this now. He needs to choose. Donald set up the recorder on the sideboard, hidden behind a picture frame. This will capture everything. If he admits to knowing about the fraud, or if Kimberly shows up and makes threats, we'll have it all on record. At 2 p.m. exactly, Stephen's car pulled into the driveway. He sat there for a full minute before getting out. Through the window, I watched him grip the steering wheel, take a deep breath, release it. When he finally came to the door, he looked older than 38. His face was drawn, his eyes red-rimmed, his shoulders slumped. "Mom," he said when I opened the door. "Come in." He saw the folders on the dining table immediately. "What is all that?" "Sit down." He sat in the chair he'd always used as a kid, the one closest to the kitchen. Habit, memory, the ghost of who he used to be. I opened the first folder, photographs of Kimberly and Ryan. Stephen stared at them. His face didn't change for 10 seconds. Then something crumpled inside. His mouth tightened. His hands became fists. "How long have you known?" he asked. "I found out 3 days ago." "But Stephen, your father knew. He hired a private investigator 18 months before he died. He documented everything." I showed him the timeline. Gerald Dawson, dead at 72. Frank Chen, nearly victimized. Robert's notes in the margins, yellow highlighter marking the patterns. "Your father was trying to protect us," I said. "He was building a case, and then he died." Stephen's voice came out hoarse. "You think she killed him?" "I think the timing is convenient. I think a healthy 66-year-old man doesn't usually drop dead of a heart attack 2 months after discovering his daughter-in-law is a con artist." "Mom, that's insane? You said that yesterday. But look at the evidence. Gerald Dawson, heart attack 8 months after marrying Kimberly. Robert, heart attack 18 months after starting to investigate her. Both men suddenly dead right when they became obstacles." I opened the next folder. Bank records showing the gambling losses. $63,000 in 3 months, I said. Online poker, sports betting. She's addicted, and she owes money to dangerous people. That's why she needs my house now, not in 6 months or a year. Now. Stephen was shaking his head slowly, like a man trying to wake from a nightmare. I knew about some gambling, he said quietly. Small stuff. She said it was under control. This is not under control. And Stephen, she's been stealing from me. $9,000 from my bank account. $756 on my credit card. She tried to add herself as an authorized user on all my accounts. I showed him the bank statements with the forged signatures. That's not your signature, he said, looking at one closely. No, it's hers, pretending to be mine. Jesus. He put his face in his hands. Jesus Christ. There's more. I showed him the fake birthday cake receipt, the CPS report Kimberly had filed, the conversations with neighbors where she'd spread rumors about my memory problems. Every piece of the systematic campaign to isolate me, discredit me, and take everything I had. She's been planning this for 3 years, I said. Since before Emma was born, she married you to get access to this family, to get access to me. Stephen looked up. His eyes were wet. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I didn't know sooner. Your father hid it from me. He died before he could show me. I only found out 5 days ago when Kimberly threatened me with that photo of Emma. The photo. He swallowed hard. Mom, I need to tell you something. My heart stopped. The bruise on Emma's arm, he said. I saw how it happened. We were at home. Kim was angry because Emma had spilled juice on her laptop. Kim grabbed her arm. Hard. Emma cried. I told Kim to stop. Kim let go and then looked at the bruise and said, "This is perfect." Those were her exact words. This is perfect. And you let her use it to threaten me. I didn't know that's what she was going to do. She took the photo and said it was for Emma's pediatrician, in case the bruise got worse. Then the next day, she told me we were coming here to talk about your living situation. I didn't know about the note until after. She showed it to me in the car on the way home. She was proud of it. His voice broke completely. I should have stopped her. I should have done something, but Mom, I'm so far in debt. $78,000. Most of it Kim's gambling losses that I've been covering. If I lose this job, if I lose the apartment, if I lose everything, where does Emma go? Emma goes where children belong, I said, with family who loves her, not with a mother who uses her as a weapon. Donald stepped forward then, his presence a reminder that this conversation was being recorded. Stephen, he said gently, your mother isn't the only one who's been victimized here. You have been too. Financial abuse, emotional manipulation, coercive control. These are real things. They have legal names, and there's help available. Stephen looked at Donald like a drowning man seeing a rope. I don't know how to get out, he said. You get out by telling the truth, I said. You testify about what you saw, about Emma's bruise, about the gambling, about the threats. You tell the truth, and we stop her before she destroys anyone else. She'll take Emma. She'll file for sole custody. She'll say I'm an unfit father. Not if we move first, Donald said. If you file for divorce and request emergency custody based on the abuse you witnessed, based on the fraud, based on the evidence we have, you have a strong case. Margaret can support you financially during the transition. You won't lose your daughter. You'll save her. Stephen was silent for a long time. Outside, the afternoon light was fading. The same light that had lit this table for 45 years. The same table where we'd eaten thousands of meals as a family. What do I have to do? He asked finally. For the next hour, Donald outlined the legal strategy. File for divorce Monday morning. Request emergency custody. Provide evidence of abuse and fraud. Testify truthfully about everything he'd witnessed. Cooperate with the investigation into the bank fraud and credit card theft. It won't be easy, Donald warned. Kimberly will fight. She'll lie. She'll play the victim. She'll try to turn people against you. She's already good at that, Stephen said bitterly. At 4:15 p.m., my phone rang. Kimberly. I put it on speaker. Margaret, she said. Her voice was cold. Where's Stephen? He was supposed to be home an hour ago. He's here, I said. Put him on. No. Silence. Then, what's going on? Stephen and I are having a conversation. A long overdue conversation about truth. Truth. She laughed, sharp and mean. Is that what you're calling your paranoid delusions now? I'm calling it evidence. Photographs, bank records, witness statements, video footage of you trying to break into my house last night. The silence was different now, heavier. I don't know what you think you have, Kimberly said slowly, but it won't matter. I've already filed the competency petition. I have a hearing scheduled for next Friday. By this time next week, Stephen will be your legal guardian, which means I control everything. Your house, your money, your life. That hearing will never happen, Donald said, speaking for the first time, because on Monday morning, Stephen is filing for divorce and emergency custody. He's also testifying about the abuse he witnessed, the fraud, the extortion, every crime you've committed in the past 3 years. Another silence. Then Kimberly's voice changed. The mask dropped completely. What came out was rage, pure and undisguised. You turned my husband against me. He turned himself, I said, by finally opening his eyes. Stephen, she said, if you do this, you'll never see Emma again. I'll make sure of it. I'll take her somewhere you'll never find her. You'll spend the rest of your life wondering if she's okay, wondering if she remembers you, wondering if she thinks you abandoned her. Stephen's face went white. That's parental kidnapping, Donald said calmly. Also a federal crime. Please, keep talking, Mrs. Hayes. This is all being recorded. The phone went dead. Stephen looked at me with pure terror. She'll do it. She'll take Emma and disappear. No, she won't, Donald said, because we're going to file an emergency order restricting her from leaving the state with Emma. We're going to request supervised visitation only. And we're going to ask the police to do a welfare check on Emma right now, tonight, to make sure she's safe. He pulled out his phone and dialed. Yes, I need to report a child welfare concern. The child's mother has just threatened to flee the state with the child to avoid a custody dispute. The child's name is Emma Hayes, age 5. While Donald talked to the police, Stephen and I sat at the table in silence. I reached across and took his hand. His fingers were ice cold. I'm sorry, he said, for everything. For not believing you. For lying for her. For being weak. You weren't weak. You were trapped. There's a difference. Dad would be ashamed of me. Dad would be proud that you're finally doing the right thing. At 6:30 p.m., 2 police officers arrived at Stephen and Kimberly's apartment in Wheat Ridge. Donald had arranged for us to monitor the welfare check remotely. An officer called with updates. We've made contact with Mrs. Hayes and the child, the officer said. The child appears healthy and unharmed. Mrs. Hayes is very agitated. She's demanding to speak with her husband. We've informed her that there's a temporary order preventing her from leaving the state with the child pending a custody hearing. She's threatening to call her lawyer. Good, Donald said. Let her call her lawyer. We'll see them in court. After the police left, after Donald had filed the emergency motions, after Stephen had signed the divorce papers, we sat together in my living room as the last light faded from the sky. Where will you stay? I asked Stephen. Here, he said. If that's okay, just until I can figure things out. Of course it's okay. This is your home. It always has been. He looked around the living room, the furniture he'd grown up with, the pictures on the walls, his school photos, year by year, tracing the path from child to man. I forgot what it felt like, he said, being somewhere safe. That night, I made up the guest room for Stephen, fresh sheets that smelled like lavender detergent, 2 pillows, a glass of water on the nightstand. When I came downstairs, he was sitting at the kitchen table, looking at one of the photographs from the evidence folders. The picture of Kimberly and Ryan kissing in the parking lot. Did you love her? I asked. I thought I did, but now I don't know if I loved her or just loved the idea of being wanted by someone. She made me feel important, chosen, then slowly, she made me feel worthless. So worthless that I thought I deserved how she treated me, that I was lucky she stayed. That's what abusers do, I said. They break you down so you'll accept anything. He set the photo down. Mom, what if we can't prove everything? What if the judge believes her? Then we fight harder. But Stephen, we have something she doesn't have. What's that? The truth. And enough people who finally believe it. At 11:23 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You'll regret this. All of you. I showed it to Stephen. He went pale. She's escalating, he said. Let her, I replied. Every threat is more evidence. I forwarded the text to Donald and to Jack Morrison. Then I locked every door, checked every window, and set the security system. Tomorrow would bring the legal battle. But tonight, for the first time in 5 days, I felt like I was winning. Not because I'd destroyed Kimberly, but because I'd saved my son. The emergency custody hearing was scheduled for Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. I woke at 5, made coffee I couldn't drink, and watched the sun rise through the kitchen window. Stephen came downstairs at 6. He'd slept in his old room, in the twin bed from his childhood, surrounded by boxes of his high school yearbooks and baseball trophies. He looked like he hadn't slept at all. Ready? I asked. No. Donald arrived at 7:30. He carried 2 briefcases now, both stuffed with evidence. Jack Morrison followed 10 minutes later with a cardboard box full of additional documents. Gerald Dawson's son flew in from Reno last night, Jack said. He'll testify if we need him. Frank Chen's daughter sent a sworn affidavit. Both of them want to see Kimberly face consequences. At 8:15, we drove to the Jefferson County Courthouse in Golden. The building was gray stone, imposing, surrounded by mountains that should have felt peaceful, but instead felt like walls closing in. Inside, the family court waiting room smelled like floor wax and fear. Other families sat on benches whispering, avoiding eye contact. Lawyers in suits moved between rooms carrying files. At 8:45, Kimberly arrived. She wore a navy blue dress, pearl earrings, minimal makeup. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun. She looked like a kindergarten teacher or a church volunteer, harmless, trustworthy, exactly what she wanted the judge to see. Behind her walked Marcus Webb, the estate lawyer Jack had mentioned. Mid-50s, expensive suit, briefcase that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Kimberly's eyes found mine across the waiting room. She smiled, cold, victorious. Then Emma walked in, holding the hand of a woman I didn't recognize, a social worker, probably, assigned to supervise the transition. Emma wore the yellow dress I'd bought her, the one from the threatening photograph. Her hair was in pigtails. She looked small and confused and scared. When she saw me, her face lit up. Grammy! She started to run toward me, but the social worker held her hand firmly. Emma, you need to stay with me right now. But that's my Grammy. I know, sweetheart. You'll see her soon. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Judge Rachel Morrison, no relation to Jack, presided from behind a raised bench. She was maybe 60, gray hair, reading glasses, an expression that gave nothing away. Donald presented our case first. He outlined the evidence methodically. The gambling debts, the affair, the fraud, the theft, the pattern of targeting elderly victims, Stephen's testimony about witnessing abuse, the threatening text messages, the attempted break-in captured on camera. Your Honor, Donald said, this is not a case of a struggling mother trying to do her best. This is a case of calculated predation. Mrs. Kimberly Hayes has systematically abused every member of this family, including her own daughter, in pursuit of financial gain. She has threatened to flee the state with the child. She has demonstrated a willingness to manufacture evidence and make false accusations. She is a danger to Emma, to Stephen, and to Margaret Hayes. Marcus Webb stood for Kimberly's defense. His strategy was predictable. Your Honor, my client is a devoted mother who has been blindsided by a vindictive mother-in-law and a husband experiencing a mental health crisis. These allegations of gambling and fraud are based on circumstantial evidence and speculation. The supposed affair is consensual friendship twisted by jealousy, and the concerns about the grandmother's competency are legitimate and well documented. Mrs. Margaret Hayes has exhibited confusion, memory loss, and paranoid delusions. She has turned her son against his wife using fabricated evidence and emotional manipulation. He was good, smooth, convincing, but then Judge Morrison asked a question. Mr. Webb, can you explain the video footage showing your client attempting to enter Mrs. Hayes' home with a key after the locks had been changed? A misunderstanding, Your Honor. Mrs. Hayes believed she still had permission to access the property to retrieve personal items. At 11:47 p.m., she works irregular hours. As what? According to her tax returns, Mrs. Hayes has reported no employment income for the past 3 years. Marcus Webb hesitated for just a second. She does freelance work, cash basis. Convenient, Judge Morrison said dryly. She turned to Kimberly. Mrs. Hayes, please stand. Kimberly stood, her face a mask of wounded innocence. Mrs. Hayes, I've reviewed the evidence presented here today. Bank records showing substantial gambling losses, credit card fraud in your mother-in-law's name, photographic evidence of an extramarital affair, testimony from your husband about abuse he personally witnessed, video footage of attempted unauthorized entry, and perhaps most troubling, threatening text messages sent after you learned about this custody petition. Kimberly's mask slipped, just for a second. A flash of pure rage. Your Honor, if I may? You may not. Judge Morrison removed her glasses. I've seen a lot of cases in this courtroom. Genuine disputes between good people trying to do right by their children. This is not one of those cases. This is a case of someone using a child as a pawn in a financial scheme. She turned to Stephen. Mr. Hayes, I'm granting you temporary full custody of Emma, effective immediately. Mrs. Kimberly Hayes will have supervised visitation only 2 hours per week, pending a full custody evaluation. I'm also issuing a restraining order preventing Mrs. Hayes from contacting Margaret Hayes or coming within 500 feet of her property. Kimberly's face went white. You can't. I can, and I have. Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for criminal investigation of the fraud and theft allegations. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel came down. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then Kimberly turned to Stephen. You did this. You destroyed our family. No, Stephen said quietly. You did. Years ago. I just finally saw it. Marcus Webb gathered his materials quickly, already distancing himself from a losing case. Kimberly stood alone in the center of the courtroom, her careful costume meaningless now, her true face finally visible to everyone. The social worker brought Emma to Stephen. My son knelt down, eye level with his daughter. Emma, you're going to come stay with Daddy and Grammy for a while. Is that okay? Emma nodded, then looked at Kimberly. Is Mommy coming? Not right now, sweetie. Why? Stephen's voice cracked. Because Mommy made some bad choices. And sometimes when grown-ups make bad choices, they have to fix them before they can be with their kids. Emma seemed to accept this with the resilience of children who'd learned not to ask too many questions. She took Stephen's hand, then reached for mine. Grammy, can we go to your house? Yes, baby. We can go home. Outside the courthouse, Donald pulled me aside. Margaret, the DA will want to talk to you, probably this week. They'll file charges for the fraud and theft. With the evidence we have, Kimberly will likely take a plea deal. But even if she fights it, you've won the important battle. Emma is safe. Stephen is safe. You're safe. What about Kimberly's gambling debts? The people she owes money to? Not your problem anymore. She made her choices. She'll face the consequences. That afternoon, I converted Stephen's old bedroom into Emma's room. We moved the twin bed out, brought in the pink bed from the room I'd prepared months ago. We hung up the unicorn decorations. We arranged her stuffed animals on shelves. Emma helped, her small hands carrying toys, her voice asking questions. Grammy, can I have cookies before dinner sometimes? Mommy never let me. Sometimes, I said. Not every day, but sometimes. And can I help you bake? Mommy said baking is messy. Baking is messy. That's what makes it fun. She smiled then. A real smile. The first I'd seen in months. That night, Stephen made spaghetti. We ate at the dining room table, the three of us, in the spots we'd occupied for so many meals over so many years. Me at the head, where Robert used to sit. Stephen on the left, Emma on the right, in a booster seat we'd bought that afternoon at Target. Grammy, Emma said through a mouthful of pasta. Daddy says we're going to live here now. For a while, yes. Forever? I looked at Stephen. He looked at me. Neither of us knew the answer. For as long as we need to, I said finally. This is home. Home is always here when you need it. After dinner, Stephen gave Emma a bath. I heard them laughing, splashing, Emma's voice high and bright. Daddy, you're getting water everywhere. The sound filled the house like light. At 8 p.m., I tucked Emma into bed. She asked for 3 books. We read about unicorns and princesses and a little girl who saved the world with kindness. Grammy, she said as I turned off the light, is Mommy going to be mad at me? My heart broke. No, baby, none of this is your fault. Grown-ups make their own choices. You didn't do anything wrong. Promise? Promise. She fell asleep holding my hand. Downstairs, Stephen sat at the kitchen table with a beer he wasn't drinking. How do I explain this to her? How do I tell her that her mother is not a good person? You don't. Not now. Not for a long time. Right now, you just love her. You keep her safe. You let her be 5 years old. The explanations can wait. I failed her, Mom. I let Kim hurt her. I let Kim use her. And now you've saved her. That's what matters. Not the mistakes you made. The choice you made to fix them. He cried then quietly, his shoulders shaking. I held him the way I'd held him when he was 5 and scared and needing his mother. We're going to be okay, I whispered. All 3 of us. We're going to be okay. 3 weeks later, Kimberly took a plea deal. Fraud, theft, extortion. 3 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 18 months. She'd also signed away her parental rights in exchange for reduced charges. Stephen filed for divorce. It would be final in 6 months. The house on Evergreen Street, the house worth $600,000 to $80,000, stayed mine. I updated my will. Everything split between Stephen and Emma, with Donald as executor to ensure it was handled properly. Jack Morrison closed his investigation. His final report confirmed what we already knew. Kimberly had targeted at least 5 elderly victims over 15 years. Gerald Dawson and Robert Hayes were dead. Frank Chen had died of natural causes in 2019, but his daughter believed Kimberly had been positioning herself to inherit before the private investigator exposed her. 2 other men had been identified, both alive, both willing to testify if needed. The pattern was clear. The evidence was undeniable. And I was alive to tell the story. On a Saturday morning in December, 4 months after the custody hearing, I woke to the sound of Emma laughing downstairs. I found her in the kitchen with Stephen making pancakes. Flour covered the counter. Eggs had been cracked with enthusiastic imprecision. Stephen's hair was dusted white with baking powder. "Grammy!" Emma called. "We're making breakfast. Daddy let me crack the eggs all by myself." "I see that," I said, surveying the beautiful disaster. "And I'm going to flip the pancakes too, with supervision." Stephen smiled at me over Emma's head. He looked different now, lighter, younger, present in a way he hadn't been in years. After breakfast, we cleaned the kitchen together. Emma stood on a stool at the sink, washing dishes with more enthusiasm than efficiency. Water splashed everywhere. "Grammy," she said, "can we put up Christmas lights today? Like the ones at school?" "We can do that." "And can we get a tree? A real one that smells like forest?" "We can do that too." "And can we make cookies and leave them for Santa, even though Mommy used to say Santa wasn't—" She stopped abruptly, remembering she wasn't supposed to talk about Mommy. "Santa is definitely real," I said firmly, "and we'll make the best cookies he's ever tasted." That afternoon, we drove to a tree lot in Lakewood. Emma chose a 6-foot Douglas fir that shed needles everywhere. We tied it to the roof of my car and drove home slowly, Emma watching through the back window to make sure it didn't fall off. Stephen carried the tree inside and set it in the old metal stand Robert had used for 40 years. We strung lights, hung ornaments. Emma placed each one with intense concentration, narrating her choices. "This snowman goes here because he looks cold, and he needs to be near the warm lights. This angel goes up high because angels are supposed to be in heaven. This reindeer goes next to the snowman because they're friends." At the top of the tree, the old star Robert had bought in 1980. Stephen lifted Emma so she could place it. "Make a wish," I told her. She closed her eyes tight. Her lips moved in silent request. Then she opened her eyes and grinned. "What did you wish for?" Stephen asked. "I can't tell you or it won't come true, but it's a good wish. A Grammy and Daddy and me wish." That night, after Emma was asleep, Stephen and I sat in the living room with only the Christmas tree lights on. The house smelled like pine and possibility. "Mom," Stephen said, "I need to tell you something." My stomach tightened. "What?" "I got a job offer. Better position, better pay, enough to get my own place, pay off my debts, start over." "That's wonderful. It's in Fort Collins, 2 hours away." The words hung between us. 2 hours. Far enough to be truly separate, close enough to still be family. "When would you start?" "March, after Emma's school year ends. I'd move us up there for summer, get settled, enroll her in kindergarten for fall." I felt the loss already. Emma's laughter in the mornings, Stephen's presence in the house, the family we'd rebuilt from wreckage. But I also felt something else. Relief, pride, the knowledge that I'd done what I was supposed to do. I'd saved them. Now I had to let them go. "That's the right choice," I said. "Are you sure? Because we can stay. I can find something local. I don't want to abandon you." "You're not abandoning me. You're moving forward. That's different. That's what you're supposed to do, but you'll be alone." "I've been alone before. I'll be alone again. That's life." I smiled. "Besides, 2 hours isn't so far. You'll visit. I'll visit. Emma will call me every night before bed like we've been doing. We'll make it work. Promise?" "Promise." On Christmas morning, Emma woke at 5:30 a.m. and ran into my room. "Grammy! Grammy! Santa came." We stumbled downstairs in our pajamas. The tree lights were on, presents scattered beneath, cookies half-eaten with a note in handwriting that definitely wasn't Stephen's. "Dear Emma, thank you for the delicious cookies. You have been very good this year. Love, Santa." Emma read it 3 times. "He knows my name." Of course he does. He knows all good children's names. We opened presents. Emma received books and art supplies and a stuffed unicorn as big as she was. Stephen gave me a framed photograph of the 3 of us at the tree lot. Emma grinning, tree sap in her hair, pure joy on her face. "So you remember," he said. "I'll never forget." That afternoon, we drove to Donald Fletcher's house for Christmas dinner. He lived alone too, had since his wife died in 2015. He'd invited us to share the day, and we'd accepted gratefully. His house smelled like roasted turkey and homemade rolls. He'd set the table with his good china, the kind saved for special occasions. 4 places, 1 for each of us. After dinner, Emma fell asleep on Donald's couch, exhausted from the day's excitement. The 3 adults sat in his living room, talking quietly. "You did it," Donald said to me. "You saved your family." "We did it," I corrected. "I couldn't have done it without you." "What will you do now, after Stephen and Emma move?" I thought about it. The big house on Evergreen Street, the empty rooms, the memories in every corner. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe I'll downsize. Maybe I'll travel. Maybe I'll finally take that art class I've been thinking about for 30 years. Maybe you'll live," Stephen said. "Just live. For yourself, not for anyone else." He was right. For 45 years, I'd lived in that house building a family. Then I'd spent 2 years grieving the loss of my husband. Then 5 months fighting to save what remained. Now it was time to figure out what Margaret Hayes wanted. Not Margaret the wife. Not Margaret the mother. Not Margaret the grandmother. Just Margaret. At midnight, we drove home through empty streets. Emma slept in her car seat. Stephen drove. I watched the Christmas lights on houses passing by, each one a story, each one a family celebrating or surviving, or simply making it through another day. When we got home, Stephen carried Emma to bed. I stood in the living room looking at our tree. The old ornaments Robert and I had collected over decades. The new ones Emma had made at school. The star on top, crooked but perfect. My phone buzzed. A text from Jack Morrison. "Merry Christmas, Mrs. Hayes. FYI, Kimberly was transferred to a facility in Canyon City. She won't be up for parole for at least 15 months. You're safe. Emma's safe. Sleep well." I did sleep well that night. Better than I had in years. Not because the threat was gone, but because I'd faced it and won. Because I'd learned I was stronger than I'd ever imagined. Because I'd discovered that sometimes love means letting go, and sometimes it means holding on. And the trick is knowing which is which. 3 months later, I stood in the driveway watching Stephen pack the last boxes into a rented truck. Emma ran circles around the yard, burning off nervous energy before the long drive to Fort Collins. "Grammy, will you come visit soon?" 2 weeks, I promised. "I'll come see your new house. And can I call you every night?" "Every single night." She hugged me tight. "I love you, Grammy." "I love you too, baby." Stephen hugged me last. "Thank you, Mom. For everything. For never giving up. For fighting when I was too weak to fight. For saving us." "You saved yourselves," I said. "I just helped." After they drove away, I stood alone on Evergreen Street, the house behind me, the mountains in the distance, the whole wide world stretching out in every direction. I was 67 years old. My husband was dead. My son was gone. My granddaughter lived 2 hours away. I was alone in a house worth $680,000 that someone had once tried to steal. But I wasn't lonely. I was free. And for the first time in my life, I had no idea what came next. And that was exactly how it should be. Now, I'm curious about you who listened to my story. What would you do if you were in my place? Have you ever been through something similar? Comment below. And meanwhile, I'm leaving on the final screen 2 other stories that are channel favorites, and they will definitely surprise you. Thank you for watching until here.